Corruption is dishonesty done by those placed in power, acts by said people to do illicit actions. Now, it's no secret that a massive wound in our country's infrastructure is, is when people are handed positions or contracts are granted to private companies owned by relatives or friends of politically positioned people. Arguably, the biggest issue we face is when these positions are handed over to people who lack the qualifications to perform in these jobs. How can we expect for the UNCOC to get rid of corruption when it's so deeply ingrained in our system, and we will have to fight just to have the laws be given some no? We must fix what we expect ourselves of our political entities before we can ask for assistance from international entities.
Our opponents mentioned that we should fix ourselves before we can ask for international aid, but the entire purpose of the UNCAC is to aid in helping us fix ourselves. That, in fact, the review mechanism, they come and assist people and make a report on our progress, and then based on our progress, they will be held, the country in question will be held accountable depending on the level of progress that they had shown. By signing and notifying, the UNCAC, the country itself holds itself accountable by putting itself and holding itself accountable. Therefore, it has an obligation to follow through on the laws made by the UNCAC. Corruption is a wide problem, and we acknowledge that, but the UNCAC is legally binding. There are 168 countries of the 96% that are part of this landmark corruption. Should also be noted that the UNCAC aim is not to completely eradicate corruption, but rather to assist and promote and facilitate measures to decrease corruption.
First of all, to say that it won't completely eradicate corruption is conceding against the fact that we're arguing that it should completely eradicate corruption. So it's either everything or nothing. We cannot be left with this half-baked act that sometimes will work or sometimes will not work. It has to be all-inclusive. It should eradicate corruption completely, or not, we're better off as we are. With our own domestic laws that combat corruption, we have the freedom of information laws and ombudsman that will aid us in that cause. So therefore, we do not need UNCAC if you're conceding that it would not completely eradicate corruption. As I mentioned, if it's left to the public to identify, document, and combat corruption in their own, who knows if they are motivated to do so? Who knows how much footing and momentum this will gain if it's left only to the people? To say the least, we lack expertise, we lack vision, and the basic know-how. So we call that without an independent judiciary established by the UNCAC will never be able to accomplish what it set out to accomplish. If government is responsible for hiring judiciaries, appointing judiciaries, who is to say that it is not well extended into these government ministries? And a good criminal will cover its footsteps. Corruption will be hard to identify, will be hard to maintain charges. But the gist of it is that we are guided by an independent judiciary that will come alongside the people and help it to strengthen this. And without that clearly established, obviously there will be no achievement in this aspect. So placing hope that once we sign this and magically corruption will go away, it's nonsensical. Doesn't make sense.
Like what my worthy opponent mentioned earlier, he said, yes, indeed, many of our countries are embedded and entrenched in corruption. Yes, we are comfortable with the corruption because most, or I would say the high officials benefit the most from it. But Rome wasn't built in one day. And this is the purpose of the UNCAC Treaty. This is the purpose. This is the reason why our country many countries had signed and ratified because of the fact that we know that the corruption exists within our systems and in our public sectors. Yes, indeed, that's a true fact. But the fact that we have signed and ratified means that we have signed on a legally binding instrument, anti-corruption instrument, and that therefore gives or is a fact that anything that goes beyond or is contrary to our obligation will result in a matter of someone being penalized, someone will be held accountable for the actions.